Hey guys and gals, it's Tripl-L, and today let's talk about anime summer 2017. Specifically, what anime are people in the domestic market of Japan looking forward to for this upcoming season of anime? Now, usually I would make a video detailing what I was thinking of watching, but this season I don't really know the majority of the shows that are there, so I thought it'd be more interesting to know what exactly Japan's feeling about this upcoming season. And thankfully, there have been some surveys conducted. The survey that I will be referencing is one done by Katakoa, and XB Express is I think the service that they used. Is a survey that ultimately took in 18,000 people and just asked them what was going on with their taste. So anyway, let's just get right into it. I have a few more disclaimers in like a little tab down below. Feel free to read that as we go into this video. Anyway, let's get into it. What are the 10 shows that Japan's most excited about? To quickly list them off, we've got Hell Girl Yoin no Togi. That's a returning show. We have Owari Monogatari. That makes a lot of sense. That's a pretty popular series, the Monogatari series. We've got Magical Circle, Yokai Apartment. It has a bigger name. I'm not gonna bother pronouncing it. Fate Apocrypha, Restaurant to Another World, Sayuki Reload Blast, New Game, Love and Lies, and Katsugeki Token Rambu. Those are the 10 shows that this demographic of viewers are excited about for this upcoming season. And now just to talk specifically about each one of them and just some general observations. There's a few series on here that it makes a lot of sense that they're this high up in terms of anticipation. I mean, the Hell Girl series has a following. It's a horror, so if you're into that, check it out. But it's in season 4, so unless you are somehow caught up with the first couple seasons, might not be worth your time. Then you have the Monogatari series. The Monogatari series is probably one of the most interesting things to sit down and watch because it like all happens out of order in terms of timing. And I've started watching a few of them, but it's gonna take some time before I actually get anywhere in that particular series. But it came in at number 2, so that makes a lot of sense. This is an established series. It makes a total amount of sense that this thing would be pretty exciting. Then you have, in terms of other series, we have Fate Apocrypha, Fate series. That makes sense. It makes sense that particular one is going to be that high up there. And for this Fate series, it's actually pretty interesting that the studio that's doing it is A1 Pictures and not Ufotable. So it's going to be interesting to see if the production, in terms of just the look, the aesthetics, and the pacing, if that changes to some big degree. Again, it's Type Moon ultimately behind it, but it's pretty interesting that it's A1 Pictures doing that. And now those are pretty much the established series, along with Sayuki Reload Blast. I don't know that series, so I can't really talk about it. But beyond that, everything else seems to be pretty new and original. And so in that listings of the originals, we've got some pretty interesting looking things popping up. One of them being Yokai Apartment, and that one specifically being about a kid who moves into a dorm, and then that dorm burns down. He has to find an apartment and it's dirt cheap, and then he finds out that it's haunted. So that seems to be like a pretty interesting little thing. It's noted as supernatural. And on the other side, we have another interesting one called Restaurant to Another World. And this one, the genre is modern fantasy and food. So I think this is the era of post Shokugeki no Soma, where having series about food is just a viable kind of strategy to have. Anyway, that particular series, I read about it and it seems pretty interesting. It's talking about a restaurant that has regular customers, but then there's a one day where it doesn't have normal customers. It closes down for the general public, and then at that time they serve different species of customers, and the ones that they're pointing out are things like elves. And so that one's pretty interesting, and again, it's called Restaurant to Another World. I'm going to be really interested to see that one just because that's kind of a novel concept. And then in that same listing, we also have a slice of life and a romance series. The slice of life series being called New Game, and this is at season 2. I missed that earlier. It's a season 2, so if you were watching New Game before, I guess you'll probably be watching New Game again. And then the other one is Love and Lies, and that one specifically the romance. In a world where romance is forbidden and marriage is arranged by the government, a high school boy must choose between the girl he loves and the partner the government chooses for him. That's interesting. That is a struggle that I feel that a lot of writers have already kind of explored, especially coming out of, let's say, post Shakespeare. I feel like everything past that point, that struggle of love versus political benefit or benefits in a union. You know, it's an interesting story. It'll be interesting to see how Japans it And then speaking of Ufotable, there is a Ufotable series popping up, and that's the one that was at number 10 for this listing, and that was Katsugeki Token Rambu. Because Ufotable is making it, you can kind of imagine it's going to look relatively well. It's going to be interesting to see whether or not this series gets delayed to the same degree that some of Ufotable's other series gets delayed. It'll be interesting, but ultimately this one is an anime based on a mobile game in which there are swords, and the swords are portrayed as handsome men. Wait, let me read that again. An anime based on a mobile game in which swords are portrayed as handsome men is the very quick synopsis. Let me just see if I can find a better synopsis than that. Okay, so I read the synopsis. It's a bit convoluted, but overall, it's one of those war period pieces. There's a war going on in the past, and the twist here is that there's people from the future who are sent back into the past so that they can alter the future, and then the people in that past, well, there's like swords, and those swords are given sentience, and there's sword spirits, and they're most likely the guys that are on this poster. But those guys, they are going to be fighting against the guys who want to change the past, and by that extension change the future. So whatever, convoluted story, that's ultimately what it is. It's a very convoluted, makes sense for a mobile game, but that is number 10, and that's the one that people are pretty excited about. Now, I mentioned it in the disclaimer, but the reason that I thought this particular survey was kind of cooler than the other ones that were going on is that this survey also has a breakdown in terms of the female voters and the male voters. So that's pretty interesting. The female voters came in at 9,895 and the male voters came in at 8,769. And they also have those personal rankings. And now on both listings there was Magical Circle, and the reason I didn't talk about Magical Circle earlier is just because I don't fully understand it, but it's written down as a reboot, and Magical Circle specifically is listed as being a revival of a classic comedy that parodies RPGs. So that seems like it could be a pretty funny comedy, and if the people in Japan are that excited about it, there might be some precedent for why they might be feeling this way. This might be a nostalgia trip for them because it seems to be relatively old and now it's being rebooted. But that might be for you guys to tell me more about if you know anything about that particular show. Interestingly, Magical Circle doesn't appear to pop up in any chart, so it might be on the levels of, say, Pokemon Sun and Moon and Dragon Ball Super. Anyway, guys, let me know what you thought of this listing. Let me know if any of those things, any of those anime shows that are popping up have your interest as well. And also let me know if you legitimately do want me to just go through all the ones that are popping up this season and want me to point out the ones that I think are going to be interesting. Again, I don't really recognize the majority of them, and so they're all pretty much new to me. But if you want that video, just let me know. I could easily make it. And then last note, this season we're still going to be having a lot of the ones from spring popping in. So RE Creators is still coming, Sagrada Reset is still there, and My Hero Academia along with Shingeki no Bahama, those are all still happening. So guys, let's end it there. Thanks for watching. Till next time, I hope you have a great day.